Intelligence chiefs from the U.S. and South Korea and Japan are due to meet in Seoul today to discuss Pyongyang's latest weapons developments. Washington's envoy to the North Korea is also on his way to Seoul. Song Kim said once again the Biden administration is willing to talk to North Korea without preconditions.
Special Representative No and I had an excellent meeting this afternoon in advance of tomorrow's trilateral meeting with Japanese Director General Funakoshi. I reaffirmed to Special Representative No Washington's strong commitment to working closely with our allies and partners, especially the Republic of Korea and Japan, to achieve complete denuclearization and a lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. To reach this objective, we will seek diplomacy with the DPRK to make tangible progress that increases the security of the United States and our allies. This includes considering potential engagement with the DPRK to reduce tensions. The U.S. continues to reach out to Pyongyang to restart dialogue. Our intent remains the same. We harbor no hostile intent towards the DPRK, and we are open to meeting with them without preconditions. Even as we remain open to dialogue, we also have a responsibility to implement the UN Security Council resolutions addressing the DPRK. Furthermore, consistent with the Biden-Harris administration's focus on human rights, we will continue to advocate for the human rights of the North Korean people and call for an immediate resolution of the abductions issue. We are prepared to work cooperatively with the DPRK to address areas of humanitarian concern. The U.S. supports the provision of humanitarian aid consistent with international standards for access and monitoring to the most vulnerable North Koreans. Special Representative No and I also discussed the ROK end-of-war proposal, and I look forward to continuing those discussions and other issues of mutual concern when I'm in Seoul later this week. U.S.-ROK-Japan trilateral cooperation remains absolutely key to our approach towards the DPRK. I look forward to engaging further on these issues tomorrow during the trilateral meeting with Director General Funakoshi and Special Representative No. Thank you.
Let's bring in our editorial director, Nick Jennings, who has been monitoring developments, and he joins us now for a little chat. Nick, what has been the international reaction to those latest missile tests? Is it being seen as a deliberate attempt to raise tensions in the region?
Well, first of all, there's still some confusion as to how many missiles were fired. The Japanese believe that there were 2 ballistic missiles fired from a submarine. South Korea saying 1. So we are waiting some kind of clarification on that. As far as is it a threat to the region, we do know, of course, as we heard in those sound bites there, that it is in violation of a UN Security Council resolution. Japan taking it very seriously. The Prime Minister has cancelled an election campaigning trip to the north of Japan to Tokyo, where he's going to be meeting with the country's National Security Council later today. And of course, there is that meeting coming up between the Americans, the Japanese and the Koreans in Seoul later today. So far, no official comment from the State Department, but it's still early in Washington, and we will, of course, probably get something later in the day. It is worth pointing out that this launch occurs on the day that South Korea is hosting hundreds of international companies and foreign militaries to attend the opening ceremony of an international aerospace and defense exhibition in Seoul. So you can draw your own conclusions on whether the timing of this launch by North Korea is purely a coincidence or the timing is symbolic.
And this seems to be a story that keeps repeating itself. What's your best take on whether the situation in the Korean Peninsula is ever going to be resolved?
Well, it's been going on for 70 years since the Korean War, and we keep seeing these sort of episodic incidents where everyone gets very concerned, and then it sort of calms down again. But of course, you cannot take your eye away from the fact that this is about, North Korea threatening to have nuclear ballistic missiles that can hit the United States. And of course, this rising tension comes at a time where tension in the whole Asia Pacific is being ramped up because of what many in the West see as China's ambitions in the region, China's threats to take over Taiwan. and the fact that China itself allegedly launched a nuclear-capable hypersonic glide missile back in August, which is meant to be one of the most advanced missiles that the world has ever seen. The Chinese have denied that, but there's no doubt that the relationship between the United States and China is racking up tension in that region. So it's obviously something that needs to be resolved, but how is it going to be resolved? Because there have been so many talks in the past. It is worth pointing out, of course, that Donald Trump did initiate face-to-face talks with Kim Jong-un. The last meeting they had back in 2019 ended with no agreement whatsoever because North Korea was demanding that the Americans stop their military exercises with South Korea, and they wanted sanctions lifted before they would end their nuclear program. And the Americans, of course, wanted that nuclear program frozen before they would consider easing sanctions. So that's where the sort of the problem lies, if you like, and it's hard to see who's going to give way first.
All right, I want to say many thanks to you, Nick, and thank you for bringing us up to speed here on Newsday concerning what's happening in North Korea.